To refuse this call, hang up now. This call will be recorded and subject to monitoring at any time. Thank you for using IC Solutions. You may begin speaking now.
Hey, Ryan, it's Rich Luthman. Is everything okay?
Yeah, we just had one guy who had his toilet clogged. Sometimes they put the towel in there and keep flushing it so the water, keeps coming out. So then
I hear you. It could become a hazard. I get you. So I just want to recap. We spoke very briefly, and then you got called back to your cell. You got moved the other night from was it the D block down to where you are now. How was your conditions now, and how were they before?
They were extremely bad before. I was kind of telling Mr. Parlato, it was like a rusted out sink, covered in rust and black mold for the community sink. My sink in my cell didn't work almost the entire time that I was on that block, or about 30 days. So, I had to go to the community sink to get water, and it was, all rusted out mold. It was a tiny space, like less than 6 feet across, about 20 feet long, if that, and just like a few cells next to each other. It was real bad.
Did you have hot water and heat?
No heat. No, they would turn the heat off it would be warm for one day, and they'll turn the heat off for 4 days to mess with us, and you have to keep writing grievances and slips almost every day just to get them to turn it back on, and then they would come in and turn it back off as soon as someone would go. They would call the maintenance, get them eventually to turn it back on after 4 or 5 days. Then they'd go right back down and turn it back off. It was probably almost 2 weeks worth of time where I had heat for 1 or 2 days.
So they've moved you now based in large part on Frank Parlato's reporting. So what can you tell me about this case? So John Flynn is your relative.
Yeah, he's my uncle, or technically my cousin, but he's much older. He's my dad's age, maybe a little younger. So obviously it's, I've referred to him as my uncle in the past, but Mr. Parlato in the articles, cites that he's my cousin. And pretty much, my uncle was explaining to me, he went on your website, and you pretty much are the same way of thinking as I am. Pretty big Trump supporter, and you see what's going on with the public corruption and the Democrats throughout the country. And essentially what I believe is happening is, for me, exposing a lot of public corruption in the Democratic Party in New York State and different things. These Democratic judges, district attorneys, Kathy Hochul, and different people are targeting me for exposing the corruption, not just my uncle for exposing him for what he did to me when I was younger.
Okay, well, let's talk about both those things. We'll talk quickly about the general corruption, then we'll talk about specifically with your uncle. But the general corruption, who's this Tonawanda judge? He had some type of professional relationship with DA John Flynn. Who's the judge in Tonawanda that ordered you detained?
Yeah, his name's Mark Gruber. He did this to me in 2021 as well, and I submitted a complaint to the 8th Judicial District for corruption, him holding me illegal in 2021, and I feel like he's retaliating against me again and teaming up with my uncle for filing that complaint then, and I had to submit another complaint this time around because his, misactions have gotten so far for judicial overreach that it's to the point where, how could I possibly get a fair trial when you have someone holding you for multiple competency exams, holding you without bail for, frivolous, texting accusations and things like that.
They can't even establish at this point. They can't even establish at the point that the text came from you, and that they're holding you in pretrial detention. Is that true?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, so basically,
not only that,
you're not available for. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, there wasn't even a warrant. They haven't even produced. They said that there was a warrant for my arrest. I've asked for a copy of that warrant. They haven't even provided it, and they seized my cell phones and tried to, go through them or break into them or use whatever technology they have to get into them. They seized my cell phones without a warrant. You have to get a warrant from a judge to take my cell phones. They're doing so much illegal stuff. It's to the point where it's beyond corruption. It's, it's federally illegal at this point. the level of, you know,
Okay, so I know that relatives have put a
rights
complaint
violation.
in. I know relatives have put a complaint in with the Commission on Judicial Conduct in the state of New York. I've dealt with them before. I hate to be the bearer of news. I wouldn't hold my breath on that one. But have you put in any other complaints? Have you tried to have relatives reach out to the federal government, to the Trump administration, to the U.S. Attorney in the Western District? What's going on? Who have you reached out to?
So my mother passed away a few years ago, and that's the time. 1 month after my mother passed away is when John Flynn ramped up his harassment against me and really started targeting me and said he'd be putting me in jail for exposing his corruption. I've tried to reach out to the Attorney General's office. I've reached out to the FBI field office, but I can't do anything from in here. The only person I really have that I'm able to work with is my mom's brother, who's my uncle that submitted that complaint to the 8th Judicial District, but he's not exactly technically savvy or, you know, familiar with, you know, filing these sort of complaints or anything. I really need someone that's in my corner that can, you know, take this to the next level, reach out to someone like Kash Patel or, you know, like the Trump administration, because they see more eye to eye of, you know, what's going on. And basically what I was trying to say before, what's happening to me here in Erie County is a microcosm of what happens throughout the country, and exactly what happened to Donald Trump before the election is they file charges against people they don't like, people that they feel are exposing their corruption or, you know, things of that nature. And obviously I'm not as prominent as Donald Trump, but, you know, what Letitia James did to him is the same thing that is happening to me, essentially.
So,
You're piling on charges that don't fit, you know.
you believe this is lawfare and weaponization of justice by the Democratic Party against you?
Yes, definitely. I mean, all the people that are aligned against me are all Democrats. They all I've been exposing corruption, you know, within their party. And I mean, I'm not sure how familiar you are with Erie County, but Erie County is heavily Democratic. It's almost 90% all representatives are Democratic. So they pretty much have a stranglehold on politics here in this county, and because I've been speaking out against their corruption, their misuse of taxpayer dollars, which is a big thing right now, like with Pam Bondi directing the U.S. attorneys to go after stuff like that. I've been exposing this stuff for about 4 or 5 years, and they really don't like that. So yeah, I exactly what you said. Like, it's lawfare, and it's weaponization of the government against me. And
do you feel like you're almost like a J6er that's in the Kathy Hochul New York State Gulag?
Explain that to me, like
the January
break that
6
down for
people.
me.
The January 6 people were put in jail, and they were held in Washington in the Gulag until Trump freed them. Do you feel like you're a political prisoner in Kathy Hochul's Gulag?
Yeah, exactly. I feel like I've told Mr. Parlato that I feel like I'm a political prisoner. I'm being held here unlawfully. I mean, my uncle or my cousin, whatever you want to call him, John Flynn, he rewrote the bail reform laws. He's the one, you know, I'm sure you've heard across New York State, the bail reform laws have changed drastically. They pretty much let anyone out of jail, or they free, you know, people who commit almost any crime gets a lenient bail or no bail and gets released. John Flynn is the one who, you know, there's an article posted, Erie County is ahead of the curve on bail reform. No one will be held in jail for nonviolent crimes or misdemeanors, and I'm being held in jail on no bail for a nonviolent alleged offense that has no ties to me, you know, no forensic data, and all these things. So how could he rewrite the laws and then totally misapply, you know, have his friends in the judicial system? You know, as you said, he worked with this judge, his name's Mark Gruber, for like 6 to 10 years, some as a judge and then some as a town attorney while Mr. Gruber was the judge. And then to have them totally use the opposite application of the bail laws that he wrote against me is the epitome of, you know, public corruption and like you're kind of alluding to, like being a political prisoner.
Okay. Now I'm going to talk about how long are these phone calls? 15 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. So we're on about nine and a half minutes. So I want to give enough time for this part. So your uncle former DA John Flynn has had a prosecutorial policy of believe the victim. And that's worked in every case that he's brought, especially the case that he brought against Steve Pigeon. the former Erie County Democratic Party chairman. They had a personal animus because Flynn believed that he was entitled to become the Secretary of the Navy when Obama got elected, and Pigeon thought he was woefully unqualified, didn't put his nomination in, and they've had bad blood since, which really led to the politically motivated prosecution and conviction of Steve Pigeon. But that's a story for another day. What happened with you and your uncle? Did your uncle sexually abuse you?
Yes, when I was a child at my father's house, I've pretty much spoke to Mr. Parlato at length about this, about the events that exactly occurred.
Tell me briefly what happened. What did he do? Did he touch you?
Yeah, he came in and out of the bathroom. My dad's house in South Buffalo was like 4 rooms. There's one in each corner, and then the bathroom's in the center of the two rooms. He came into my room when my siblings were asleep. It was like real late at night when him and my dad, he came to meet my dad to drink or do whatever, talk about politics, whatever they're doing at that time. I was, such a young kid. He came into the bedroom, leaned all his body weight across my legs, and started touching my private areas for 1 to 2 minutes. And all these details Mr. Parlato's, already wrote about in the paper and stuff, obviously. I don't know how much detail you want me to go into about it, but
tell me about it. We got a couple of minutes, so tell me in detail what happened.
Yeah, so it was late at night. He came in and out of the bathroom before and after. He came into the bedroom. When you go up the stairs to my dad's house that was in South Buffalo, it was on Pomona Ave. My bedroom was the first one to the right. My brother Williams was the one across. He came into my bedroom, leaned all his body weight across my legs, like laying on top of my leg, almost in like a holding me down position, then took my privates out of my pants and was touching me for about 1 to 2 minutes.
He was touching you with his hands? Was he touching you with his mouth? How was he touching you?
Yeah, with his hands, yeah.
Okay. And so he was trying to masturbate you. How old were you at the time?
I must have been like 10 or 11, very young.
Okay, so you're 10 or 11 years old, and he takes you. And so this happened. Is this the only time it happened?
No, he came in there again and tried to get me to perform oral sex on him, which I refused. And he told me if I ever told anyone, he would ruin my life or kill me, like that, And then as soon as I came forward, he put me in jail. So it proves.
Did he? You were about 10 years old, 11 years old. He wanted you to perform oral sex. Did he take out his penis?
Yeah, some of the details are hard for me to remember because I'm 32 now, so it's almost 20 years ago. But yeah, he was unbuttoning his pants, attempting to pull out his private areas, asking me to touch him that time after he touched me the first time.
And part of the issue is that you're incarcerated. If you were on the street, you could get repressed recollection therapy. You could actually see a therapist and try to further recollect what had happened to you based on that. But that part of the trauma, I think, that their institution inflicting upon you is to have you not be able to come forward as robustly as you could to tell your story. It sounds like you're a victim and someone whose story should be believed. What else can you tell us? We have about a minute and a half. Tell us more about your Uncle John Flynn, the former district attorney's of Erie County's abuse of you, sexual abuse.
I mean, that's, pretty much the extent of it. As soon as I, told people and started coming forward, I first alerted the Niagara County Sheriff's Office in November of 2024. And when I came forward and, filed the complaint with the South Buffalo Police, then that's when the, prosecution really ramped up against me, and they started incarcerating me with
1 minute remaining,
or in this case, no bail at all. And I think it's all connected to me first trying to expose his public corruption because, coming forward as a victim of something like that, like I've explained to other people, like if you sleep with your teacher in school, everyone thinks that's cool. But if you get abused as a child and by a male, it's really like not something you feel comfortable talking about with people, not something you want other people to know about you because of the stigma.
Ryan, real quick, we're about to get thrown off the phone. Do you think your uncle is going to try to have you killed? Are you fearful for your life?
Definitely.
You think there's a chance that he'll have you killed?
Yeah, definitely. I think he has that much power that he could give someone a break on their, their charges, or even not charge them if something did happen to me.
Well, he's not
He has
the
that much
DA
power.
anymore, but he's still got that kind of juice.
Yeah, definitely. He appointed the current district attorney, even though he won in the election. They have so